Oh, Queen Justice, where are you? Did they beat you up or no? Lock you on the ground, take the crown away from you?
Oh, Lady Liberty, red, white, and blue. Did they take your dignity with their bigotry? Teach you that you're born to lose.
Free or guilty, it's gonna get filthy. Better believe, roll up your sleeves. It's gonna get rough, it's gonna be tough. We all agree, we've had enough. We've had enough of all the rules you break. We've had enough of all the money you make. We've had enough, no more life gets taken. We've had enough, this is a proclamation.
It's been 400 years and we're 400 late. Together we stand from state to state. Going back in time won't make America great. We need justice now, people won't wait.
Action, no more distraction. Every step we take, we gain traction. If it can happen to one, it can happen to all. United we stand, divided we fall. Free or guilty, it's gonna get filthy. Better believe, roll up your sleeves. It's gonna get rough, it's gonna be tough. We all agree, we've had enough. We've had enough of all the rules you were breaking. We had enough of all the money you were making. We had enough, no more life gets taken. We had enough, this is a proclamation. Free or guilty, it's gonna get filthy. Better believe, just roll up your sleeves. It's gonna get rough, it's gonna be tough. We all agree, we've had enough. We've had enough of all the rules you're breaking. We've had enough, all the money you're making. We've had enough, no more life gets taken. We've had enough, this is the proclamation. We've had enough. Trayvon Martin and Tommy Rice. We've had enough. Michael Brown and Eric gonna pay the price. We've had enough. Philando, Breonna, George Floyd. What? We've had enough. So many gone. How can we fill the void?
How can we feel?
We've had enough. John Crawford, I know you've heard. We've had enough. Sandra Bland, come on and take a stand. We've had enough. Sean Bell, what the hell? We've had enough. Freddie Gray, did you hear what I said? We've had enough. This is a proclamation.
Welcome to the Friday edition of Conversations with Al McFarlane. Fridays we call the Healing Circle. I'm pleased to continue this wonderful and instructive relationship under the tutelage and the leadership of Dr. Bravada Garrett Akinsanya, Dr. B, we call her. She is the principal at Brickens Consulting and Psychological Services, and here she leads with the project African American Child Wellness Institute. And the Institute has been convening the Healing Circle on Fridays for a bit now. Just wonderful conversations talking about wholeness, healthiness, how we navigate in the physical and spiritual and emotional and mental realm. How do we demystify or destigmatize what it means to be and to look at mental health? How do we take our lives and our power and continue to develop as individuals, as families, as community in ways that simply enhance and reflect our humanity? Dr. B, good afternoon. How are you? Good to see you again. And unmute your mic if you would. We can all unmute. Yeah, there we go.
Good afternoon, my brother. I'm so happy to see you and this illustrious team of people who bring expertise to this panel. And I'm grateful that this week we will be talking about youth as ambassadors of health and wellness around COVID and community violence issues. And it's just awesome to be here once again. You have been a great partner for our organization, getting the word out, breaking down the stigma, letting us know that no shame in our game as of people who have survived centuries of oppressive experiences and trauma, and we are resilient and still rising. And yet we still know that we've been on the battlefield, and some of us have racial battle fatigue, and we're just tired of it. So we have to realize how to take care of ourselves. And I'm just so glad that the Healing Circle exists so that we can share knowledge, our spirits, and move forward in the community. And so I thank you again for welcoming me and the awesome expertise of the panel in front of us today. So I'm glad to be here.
Let's introduce our regulars, first of all, with Sherlyn McNeil. Sherlyn McNeil LaChapelle. Sherlyn is a fierce leader, advocate in community, in health, in the medical field as an RN, as a nurse practitioner, both in emergency room nursing, but also in mental health. And she's entrepreneurial, and she is political. She's a force of nature, a voice that you can count on to stand up and stand out. Sherlyn, good afternoon. Good to see you again. Thank you for being here, as always. And you have to unmute, and you need to adjust your camera down a little bit too. There we go. Unmute first of all. There we go. And then there. Did you unmute? Got it.
There you go. Al, thank you for the intro. There's nothing else to say after that.
Well, and I'm just describing somebody who's going to be herself.
That's true.
You always come through the way I describe you. Brenda Gray is here. Brenda Gray is on my team, a writer for Inside News, a childhood friend of mine, as a matter of fact. So we go back a long ways, and I'm pleased and fortunate to have her be part of these conversations. We're still trying to work out Brenda's camera as well, so we're learning as we go. Brenda, you're still only half in the frame, so we got to figure out how to get you in there. So unmute and say unmute first of all and say hello. And then Lily, you can unmute as well, and Mark unmute so that we're all able to talk in a minute. So she's going to get that unmuted. Brenda, that's what you got to do. Lily, are you unmuted?
There I go.
Okay, great. And Lily, you unmute, please. Well, hello, Brenda. Hello, Brenda. How are you?
I'm fine, and you, Al?
I'm well. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Let me introduce my niece, Lily Rankin. She's my great niece, and she's joined our team as an intern for McFarlane Media Inside News. We'll be seeing her stories in Inside News. She's doing rewrites and edits as a beginning, just to learn the basics of journalism. But she is a gifted young lady who is a thespian. She's in the theater. She's done several major semi-professional productions, and she's working on something now. She's a singer, and she's just a wonderful person. Lily Rankin, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Thanks for the introduction.
Sure. And it's a pleasure to have you in this meeting with us. And then Marcus
Chelsea,
Bentley.
could you call me back later? I am on in about an hour. I'm on the.
And you have to mute yourself, Shirley. Shirley, you have to mute, please. Yeah, you have to mute when you're on the call there. There we go. Thank you. So Marcus Bentley is joining us from Canton, Ohio. Canton, right? Or Akron? Akron.
I'm originally from Canton, Ohio. Yes.
Right. So Marcus is Coach Marcus Bentley from Akron, Ohio, by way of Canton. He studied social work and managed and minored in theater at the University of Akron. There he goes. Connection, Lily. And he's the founder and chief operating officer of Lava Athletics. He's also the dean of students and online learning advocate at the Edge Academy Learning Center. Coach Bentley believes Coach Bentley coaches high school football, basketball, track. He uses sports as a tool for creating positive social change in the community. Furthermore, he's a playwright and has developed a theatrical workshop to help participants cope with trauma, and he teaches emotional intelligence. His personal mission statement is, "It's not the day I was born, but the lives I changed because I was born. Coach Marcus Bentley. Coach, how you doing, man?
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us. And you're going to be here next week as well. So let me ask Dr. B to take the lead here and tell both Coach and our viewers and listeners what we do in the Healing Circle and explore more in depth the topic for the day, how youth can provide leadership and support in the challenge we're facing. And then you can introduce the talking stick concept and pass it to Marcus, and we can let him tell his story, and we'll just keep sharing this conversation in the style with the protocol that we've created.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be able to do that. Today, as we enter the Healing Circle, we acknowledge our elders who have given us permission to talk. We acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge the land that we're sitting on and working in belong to indigenous groups. And we acknowledge the fact that we are carrying messages that will transcend our lifetime. And we're making decisions that will continue beyond us. So as we enter the Healing Circle, we use some African components. The libation is the word of hope and peace. And the libation includes our young people as well as our elders. And we see ourselves as in a center, as a circle. And the power of the circle is that no matter who you are, how old you are, from what status you sit, the center is the point of power. And everyone in this circle has equal access to voice and power. So although we may not be sitting in a room in a circle, in our spirits, in our heads, in our hearts, we are in circle right now. And this part of the healing is allowing our voices and our spirits to meet, and in a synergetic way, allowing us to lift up the needs that we have in front of us. So this week, as we talk today, our focus is on youth and their role as ambassadors for wellness and what they can do to change the world around them just because they are and just because they have voice. So I welcome you, Brother Marcus, to the circle. And with that, I'll pass the talking stick. And the question for today, at least the first round, is what you hope to give in the circle, what you hope to receive. So I'm passing the stick to you symbolically, brother. You got to take it.
I got it.
There you go.
Ashe.
Ashe.
I believe I bring to the circle, striving and thriving through trauma to become a functional, what I would say, successful African American male in society, have an impact with a voice to reach. Because of my place in the circle, I can reach different age groups and still be in the middle at the age of 44. So from the least of them to the greatest of the elders, that scope is what I believe, and the vision in the ear, and just being in tune with the voices and respecting the ancestors and their knowledge and wisdom and what they have passed down to us, and cherishing that. So I believe that's what I bring to the circle. And along with my network of individuals that have been drawn to the energy and the cause of what we're trying to produce as far as supporting the mental health, the cause of mental health in the African American community and abroad, so from an Afrocentric perspective, so that's major as well.
And what would you like to get from the circle before you pass the stick?
More knowledge, forever learning. I love to learn. I cannot know enough. So more networking, building more collaborations.
Okay, pass the stick.
I'll pass the stick to, let's start from the youth. I'll pass the stick to Lily Rankin.
Okay, I'll take the stick. What I want from this opportunity that I've been greatly given is just learning more. I'm still young and I'm still a teenager, and learning from elders or people that have been very, very, in tune with themselves and with the world as much as all of you are, is very, very, very pleasing for me and for my knowledge as well. Also, it's a very grateful opportunity that I have as a young person to learn at this age of what everyone else is talking about. What I give to the circle is my youth knowledge and what I've learned as a younger person from coming, from here when you guys are already up here. It's like it's what I've learned as well, and I'm putting it into the circle as changing the way of seeing things, I feel. So that's what I feel like I have to give to the circle. I'll pass the talking stick to Brenda. There you go.
Thank you, Lily.
Yeah.
Really welcome as a former educator, the voice of youth. And I had mentioned in an article that I had written that a lot of the conversations in the chat was, let's hear it from the young people. We want to hear their voices. And so we're hearing yours. And that's really good. And I think what I want to receive from the circle is a lot. I think I'm like everyone else, a lot more knowledge. And as a columnist for a real tough boss, I am required to do a lot of research, and I'm learning so much. And I am a #1 fan of Dr. B. So I just draw from her because I have experienced, and my daughters have experienced, a lot of trauma, a lot of racial upheaval all throughout. I started at 3. And Al was not right in our neighborhood, but he experienced the same thing. I mentioned the fact that we saw those National Guards and the Army tanks going down our childhood streets. So this is nothing new for us. What I'd like to give, I think I'm giving in my writing, because as I hear all of you and Sherilyn, I mean, I love her. She shoots from the hip, and it's so good to hear her. So I think that's what I'm giving, is through my writing and the way I interpret and the way I see. And Marcus, congratulations. Both of my daughters were athletes. My oldest daughter was ranked 5th in the nation in the 200 and tennis. Wow. And I was a single mother, and had it not been for sports, they wouldn't have gone to college. Milana had a full ride at USC, and Gianni went to University of Redlands, but she suffered because she was the first Black tennis player there. So here comes the race, and here comes the skinhead. So anyway, congratulations to you, because sports is definitely a good entry into what real life is about. And I think one of the big things that we get from sports is discipline.
Yes.
So anyway, I'm going to pass the stick to my friend, the shoot from the hip lady. I love her, Sherilyn, and she's muted.
I'm unmuted now.
Oh, okay.
I thought I was muted before when I answered the call. Sorry, everyone. It was the U of M, or I wouldn't have answered. Marcus, I too take my hat off to you. And growing up in the projects, it was Mayor Daley's Youth Foundation in Chicago, and Commissioner Robichaud, who was the athletic commissioner. I was on the City of Chicago track team. And got to travel all over thanks to the track team, and I wasn't as good as your daughter. I wish I were, but you know. But I had a great time. I was taken to wrestling. What do you call it? When you go to a wrestling thing, and we're sitting right on the ring. That's when I realized it was fake. They didn't start bleeding until they touched their waistband. And then so anyway, I say all that to say that took me out of the projects emotionally and mentally. The opportunities helped me to grow as a person and to realize that there was something more than just my environment. And it helped me to want more and to strive for more and to work towards more. And I remember that every day when I'm in the community working with people from the community. I like to say it's not where you are, it's where you're going. And it doesn't matter where you are, because I'm from the projects. And if I can get out and become something, I expect you to jettison right past me.
Right, right.
So, you know, I'm just happy for all the work we're trying to do. Al has given us a voice on the airwaves. He's a very important asset for the community, because whenever anything's going on that we need to get out, there's Al getting it out for us. So we need everyone. All of us doing our roles are very important. Dr. B, everybody, we kind of need each other.
That's right.
Hezekiah Walker.
There you go. Teach, sister. Teach.
Are we running for public office?
So what do you want to bring to the circle, Shirlene? And what do you want to get out of it?
You know, I just got off of WebEx with DHS. And we were talking about all the community trauma and just all the stuff and how everybody's suffering and, you know, what to do. And it made me think that everybody's traumatized. Our youth are traumatized, but our focus needs to be not so much on ourselves, the adults, but focus on the children. They're still developing. They have young minds. They need our support. They need our guidance. But most of all, they need us to listen to their pain so that we can help them to get to the other side, or at least to get to the middle of it, and to understand that they have an important future role in society, and that we as elders or semi-elders are here to help guide them along the way, and that they have knowledge. Yes, Lily, you have knowledge based upon your age and experience that we have forgotten about. And that's important. It takes youth to reach youth. I mean, we can work with you, we can support you, but Lily, you know the lingo, you know what's important, how to get, you know, what to say to each other that makes it real, and that will make them understand that, hey, we got to get busy here. You know, this is our fight, but we can only do this much of the fight, and we can't fight alone. We need everybody, every age group. Together we can move mountains. Alone, you know, we're just creating havoc. So I'm gonna pass it to Elle now.
Okay, thank you. So I bring to the circle the idea, picking up on two words of being in the middle, the importance of the notion of being in the middle and being in the circle, those together. And I'll take those a step further, saying being the middle. And I bring this idea, this discussion, this concept, that it's important for us to view the world from the centrality of our personal existence. And to say to, for each of us to say to ourselves, right, that the fact that we exist means something, that our existence is important, and that our lives, the space we take up, the time we take matters. So to me, that's boiled down to an awareness that through me, everything that ever existed passes. And through me, everything that will exist will come from me. And so how do you position yourself to be aware, to have this awareness about the centrality of your existence, the position you occupy in the middle of existence, that you both reflect the beginning. I often say you reflect what existed before the beginning, and that you reflect what will exist after the end. So being conscious, having a feeling that where you are is really a part of this massive and awesome construction that's called existence, and that you're part of it, you're being a part of it, makes a difference in the world. So what I hope to get is a chance to explore how others resonate with the idea. And the way I get that is that I address you each, and those who are listening on Facebook and YouTube. When I'm looking at you and looking to you, I'm looking at the middle, and I see you in the important position you occupy in the middle of existence, in the middle of creation. And my contact with you is creator to creator. The creator in me connects with the creator in you, and it believes and reflects that anything and everything is possible, that all things good can emerge from intention. And so that's what I expect to get. I would like to pass the talking stick back to Marcus, first Dr. B, because I wanted him to talk more about his agency, his organization, and in doing that, talk to the question of the day of youth, how we help and look to and invite youth to be present and be proactive, to be actors in creating solutions for our people and for humanity. How does that happen with your organization there in Akron? So I pass the stick to Marcus.
I grab the stick. Well, the name of our organization is LAVA Athletics, LAVA. It stands for Learning Abilities for Victory and Achievement. We were founded in 2016. It was a skills building group for a group of young men out of a grant that was given when I was a teacher assistant. So they wanted me to help with a group of young men that were having trouble in the school. They saw how at that time I had, like you said, being at that age where I had the language to kind of work with these kids as a teacher assistant. I was in my early 30s, but the framework that I'd given them was based on how I adapted, understanding to network and build relationships, understanding the importance of communication, understanding code switching. So all of those things, understanding history and where you come from, and how your history doesn't begin here in the United States, but you have a legacy and greatness that began over in Africa, which it opened their minds to it. So it started out as lava before the athletics. And it was just, I thought about the word lava I thought about volcanoes, and they have so much potential. And they sit there with all this power inside of them, and they sit dormant, but not realizing that when it explodes, all that energy, you can see it from a mile around. So that's when I came up with the idea of lava. And then I created the acronym Learning Abilities for Victory and Achievement. I think that was in 2015. By 2016, that's when I added the athletics to it. I started beginning to see that I coached, and the impact that sports and the leadership that took place with individuals who were in those sports institutions, coaching basketball, football, and track. I started noticing these leaders in these leadership roles in these young men and women. And in a time where people don't want to stand up and be leaders, I see a lot of gangs where, because when you become the leader, they're trying to take your head off. And you'll see that in a lot of the culture and in the movies. Once you become to a certain point or a certain rank, somebody's trying to get you. In the classroom, nobody wants to be the smart kid. They don't want to be the leaders. And all these are trauma-based issues that we'll probably talk about later. I know we will. But to encourage these young men to be leaders. I remember doing a youth group, and there were a number of boys that were getting out of youth prison, and they had a number of issues that they were dealing with. But what I did was I separated the guys, and I said, let's start a good game. And this is how you will be rewarded if your language changed when you're in this group, if you shared your insight like we're doing now, and you were vulnerable, and we can grow. But let's highlight the positive things. And a lot of times when you're talking about prevention and supporting and changing lives, we highlight a lot of the negativity. So I could be a former drug dealer, or you would have a former prisoner come, and you would talk to them about their time they've been in jail, or you would highlight all the negative. I sold all this dope and I made all this money. And that hasn't, those testimonies, people have been giving testimonies in church for years, and sin is still an issue, but when you approach it from, okay, how did I keep from certain things? So how do I have the skills and the adaptability to survive certain instances and traumas, not highlighting them, because some kids are here that you made that money and say, oh, you survived. So that means I got a little bit of time to sell this dope, or I can get into this lifestyle. You made it out, so I can make it out. So what we want to do is highlight those individuals first, who you haven't experienced, you haven't took a drink, you haven't smoked any weed, let's keep them there. What skills and values, let's highlight that. Then you have a group that they've experienced, they might have smoked one time, or they might have had one drink. So then let's give them skills and information and assess what we can do to build them up. But therefore, you start moving into the treatment phase where you got kids and youth misusing and abusing drugs and alcohol. Now you're looking at the therapeutic side and support systems that need, so now you got to go a little deeper. So when we're talking about prevention, is what I'm speaking of now, you have levels to prevention, and it's a scope to where, okay, here's a universal, here you have this indicated, and then here you have a problem where it's measurable, where they're using, and it's a treatment side of what they're doing. So all this evolved in our organization from just going out and reaching out and trying to see how we can impact lives. As it goes for the youth, we need more youth-led events. So now, okay, we need evidence-driven, youth-led organizations. So in our case, we're going to use sports as an example. Going to every high school, middle school, sports are highlighted at all times. And this is duplicatable in any city. Sports are highlighted, right? So usually the leaders in the school, the coolest kids are the athletes. So if I get the football team, the basketball team, the track team, the lacrosse team, the soccer team, I get those groups and those leaders, and we go on a campaign to say, hey, let's go anti-violence. Let's stand up for this cause. Let's go anti-drugs. Let's go anti-alcohol. And we get them competing in that way, each school competing for the best ideas and change, and presenting those things at the end of the year, and then highlighting those accomplishments. Those are ways to change the school environment. That's where they're getting the most socialization. Like you said, the youth, they deal with their peers. That's who they're getting it from. As parents and educators, we're like that secondhand knowledge, that secondhand contact that they're getting. But amongst them, if we're putting the right information in these youth communities and they're sharing the proper information, then now we're moving, and now we can impact and have change. So that kind of highlights the essence and the mission, the holistic mission. So we want the physical, spiritual, and mental health of the environment of these kids to impact, so that's one of the major things. So we'll take, say, a group of kids, you have athletes, not only are you impacting your school, we have a portion of our organization called Voice, Volunteering Opportunities in Community Education. So what we'll do is we'll take these youth out, and we spoke to the elders. We'll go out and say an elder needs their backyard cut, they need paint, the house painted, they need some siding done, they have plumbing jobs. So these young individuals can learn trades and skills on how to support and do landscaping. They can learn carpentry, just by going out and building up your community. So those kind of activities not only build unity and also cause change, but it's also the socio-emotional side of them watching and seeing the results. You can do so many things so many times, but you don't see the impact of what you're doing. Those are some things that you can do immediately and see a change, as I have an impact. And that goes into the hearts of the kids, and that reward encourages them to go further. So we have many aspects of the organization. We call them divisions, just like in sports. So we have a Division 1, which is our mental health division. We have a Division 2, which is more of our outreach, like I was talking about. Division 3, community development. Division 4 and 5, you have the finance departments, but we also have a theatrical division in which we do the workshops. And of course, in dealing with traumas, when we do our workshops, it's amazing that you get a group of people together and you can tell an individual story or you can tell a collaborative story, but people are given a piece of themselves, and this is their chance to open up, but it's a character speaking for them, or they're playing the character of that abusive person that abused them in their lives. And they get to be that person from that side. And it's helping them face the traumas and the anxieties and see it from a different perspective. And a lot of times, it causes a lot of liberation and freedom.
I love what you're just saying. And just to jump in, as you were talking about theater, I saw Lily's face kind of light up a little bit. And so if you don't mind, I'd like to take the stick from you and give it to Lily, because I know she's paying attention to what you're saying. And I'm just wondering, what's your reaction to what you heard Brother Marcus say, Sister Lily?
It's amazing. I'm kind of mind blown at the what he's saying. It's really amazing what he's doing. And I'm grateful for people just like him that do stuff not only for, pushing out the youth and how they are dealing with things, and it's even like trauma related, like he was saying, and that just it hits home, I guess. And since I am in theater, and I've been doing theater for 4 years and been in 11 shows and doing a show right now, it's amazing. It's actually impeccable. And so when he's just talking, it's very moving. And when I was thinking about how, I did a show, I did a play about hidden heroes or hidden figures, and I was the main actress for it, and it was Mary Jackson, and it was going against all the injustices that they went through for, the story of Hidden Figures, them becoming the real woman of NASA, the Black woman of NASA. And we, in the show and in the play, we had to go against the white people and the people that were going against them at the time, and was talking bad on them, pushing them down constantly. And they were, doing themselves and being themselves. So it's crazy to hear, and how we connect so much as, people, and what we do and what we talk about and how we feel. And when he was saying, like, more younger people need to speak out and do things, because we do connect with our peers. When we hear older people or our like older relatives or relationships that we have, we are like, yes, we have to respect that, we understand, but it's to a peer point where we're just talking, and it's always continuously them. And so it's better to put it in a positive mental environment with us to push us to a narrative where it would be better. As me, not to toot my own horn, but on Monday, I'm having a school walkout, and I'm the leader of it. And I've talked to the principal about it. I've talked to many of people about it. Even the school district leader came to talk to me about it and was like, we acknowledge what you're doing. We support you full-heartedly. And so did the principal. So it's a huge thing. And that's what that reminded me of. And so I'm just really excited to be a part of everything in this, and we'll have to learn more about what Marcus was talking about, because it's just so fascinating to hear everything that he says, and everything that you guys have to say as well. So thank you for passing the stick to me, Dr. B.
I want to give it back to you one more time before you leave. What do you think would be the number one piece of advice that you would give to people who are working with kids or people who have children or for parents? What would be your number one piece of advice in this area that we're talking about empowering youth to do their thing?
That's a good question. I would say, helping is 24/7, obviously the best way and best route to go. Connecting with your children as much as possible if you do have children or even students. When I had a Black teacher named Mr. Johnson, he was the only Black dean that I had at the time at school, and me and him connected, and we were talking about things that I could do and helping me out with school because I was like, failing like some of my classes, and he was like, let's pick that up, let's do this, let's figure out how to get this well and get you to being in a better well state. What's going on? Let's connect with that, let's see what's fixing that, instead of being like, yeah, you're doing bad, fix that, and not helping and figuring out what's going on. So I feel like just connecting on a level with the younger youth, and as an older person, it forms not only a bond with them and makes it better to talk with not only just peers but others as well. It forms better mindsets as a younger person. It helped me a lot, and that's why I feel like I'm glad to be in theater now and talking to you guys on this podcast as well. I feel like I couldn't have done that without connecting with more people as usual, connecting with you guys as well, talking about how we are colored people, and we talk about that, and we're talking about like what we've served as injustices or what we faced as that. It like how we all seem like we've all went through something different, but it's at the end the same thing, And so I feel like, just connecting as well feels like the best main thing that really needs to be pushed in more.
Thank
Dr.
you.
B, let me ask Lily to take another minute and talk about what's happening Monday. What is the event you're organizing for Monday? It's Monday coming up, right?
Yes, it's on the 19th of April.
So what is it, and why is it, and what are the objectives, the aims, and what's motivating you to make that move?
All right, so I'm the leader of the Irondale High School walkout. It is a walkout for to honor, obviously, Dante Wright, and also the racial injustices that have been happening not only in schools but as well as outside of school, because it's more important to just be like, oh, well, it's not happening in school. It is, but as much as it is outside of school. And so I'm pushing that as a bigger thing than just, barrier, because they did have an assembly about it. And it was only for the kids that actually go to school, because some of us are distance. Mm-hmm. And so I push it as everyone can go. If you're distance, if you are here, and I spread it around, and it's been spread out like wildfire since yesterday. And so it's about everyone showing up, everyone participating. There's been parents from Bel Air, which is not even our school, but they're like in our district, that are like our parents that are like, we can help. We want to push you as a voice and make sure that you are heard. Make sure that our children are heard. Make sure that this whole entire system hears that this is happening and that this is how we feel. And it hasn't even just started as me. It was a post for Minnesota teen activists on Instagram where they posted Minnesota worldwide walkout. And I comment and talked to them personally and had a conversation about how our school was going to do it. And so we still talk about that now, and talk about how and what is going on with that and through our schools, and how we can connect with us being not in the same county, but still going through with schools, because it is in Minnesota, and racial injustices are happening more and more on, and it has been, but it's more shown out now, and with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all that stuff happening. And so the time of the walkout will be at 1 to 147 because Dante Wright was left on the floor at 147, as said from his girlfriend. So we're going to have a moment of silence at that time, and we're going to sit and talk. I'm going to have people of color in my school as teachers, students being able to talk and comment on what they feel about this and what has happened at the protest. We also have not protest, walked out, and we have flyers, and we have water and drinks for people and food for people if they need it, because it's at the end of the day of our school. So, you know, people are going to get hungry. So there's that too. And yeah, I've gotten a lot of emails, messages about it through not only just, you know, students that have talked about it and it's only been in our school, but like outside of everyone else, and around our community as well, that are all participating and asking me like, how can I help? How to make this better? Because we all understand this is a big, major thing that is happening. We want to push it to not only just knowing, but doing something about it. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
Wow. All right. Well, Dr. B, I want to go back to you just to comment and to contextualize.
I just think that's very powerful and very hopeful. And the reason it touches me so deeply is because when I do look at the picture of Devontae Wright, he looks just like a child to me. And he didn't look in any way threatening to me. Kids will run. I was raised in the South. We used to get whippings. I'd run if my mama was coming with a strap. And I imagine when I was at school, if I got in trouble, I probably would have run too. But since my mother was a school teacher, I actually had nowhere to go. But one of the things I see is that our community is being policed by traumatized police. And they're traumatized people policing traumatized people. And when you're traumatized, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that aids in decision making, we call that executive functioning. It aids in strategizing and linking one thing to the next. That part shuts down. And when you're afraid, it takes more than an hour for it to boot back up. And so if you're a police officer and you're policing a traumatized group of people, it would seem to me part of your training would let you know that I'm traumatized, you're traumatized. How are we going to deal with this? How can we minimize this trauma between us? And so when I hear young people like you, I have hope that your voice will do just what it's doing, taking the world by storm. That people have to pause and listen because you are teaching. You're teaching us about the pain and the trauma that our babies are experiencing. And we can't leave you voiceless. We don't want you teaching to a black hole. We as adults need to hear and allow you to have that space so that we can grow and learn. And so I think about that and I'm just so moved into joy from the pain I've been feeling, that I have hope that it won't always be this way. Because some people are young, they may end up being police officers. Some of them may end up being judges and teachers and preachers and actors. They may end up changing our voice as a collective. And so, sister, when I hear you, I feel hope. And so, and often I think about, I'm going to pass the baton now to Sister Brenda, who I'm sure she'll send it to Sister Sherlyn. But our hope is not just
Marcus, I wanted to tell you that I have written a children's book called Paco and Mrs. Higgins, and it is based on Al and my principal, George Perry, in our neighborhood at DA Homes. And it is exactly what you said. A group of kids took Mrs. Perry, and after he passed, and worked in the yard. It's based on a true story. And Lily, the other thing, I want to give you a little history. You can't see it, but behind me are two canvases by Norman Rockwell. And one is the story of Ruby Bridges. Mm-hmm. And I know you probably, listening to you, know the story and her courage. And you talking about trauma, she and her mother had trauma. It's a good story to see in the film. And the other one is called Welcome to the Neighborhood. And Norman Rockwell stopped all of his artistry, and he was so moved by this movement and by little Ruby Bridges that he painted these two. And so I carry them with me because I was part of both of them. And Al was part of both of them. And so there's so much history. And to see a young lady like yourself with that type of passion and that type of commitment, we were there. Believe me, we had one of our friends he wasn't on yesterday, but he was Kenneth King. He is now Kamal King. But you're talking about people, and Al's cousin, Bernard. These people were revolutionaries, but they were like, if no one else is talking, I'm going to talk. And they did things for their community. I'd love Al to know what Bernard would have done with what we have gone through, because he was phenomenal. He was powerful. And unfortunately, he was murdered at a very young age. And we still talk about him. We still write about him. And there's a statue that sits in Brooklyn Park, our Brooklyn Park on 28th in Brooklyn, that is dedicated to him. And every time I go to Kansas City, I do not leave without seeing Bernard's statue. So anyway, thank you, Lily, for your passion and your commitment. And I might not be around, but I think you're going to be in politics one day, young lady. So I'm hoping on it. To Sherlyn.
Powerful.
Well, she may not be in politics because there's more than one way.
Yeah, that's true.
And she may be in the theater because messages are passed through acting. I mean, look at Black Panther, what they did for the community, for the world. Yeah. It was a powerful message saying that we are people of history who did great things, scientific things, all those things. So just in that one movie, it changed the narrative. It changed the conversation. I have a niece who's an actress in Chicago, and I love when she's in something and I happen to be home. And acting has a role in reduction of trauma. It tells stories. It helps people to heal. Mm-hmm. A friend of mine, Dr. Gross, she's, I forget the name of her theater company here. And she works with youth. And through the production she puts on, it helps them deal with the trauma they've gone through. Some of them have been in the juvenile justice system, and some of them have been homeless. But through the theater arts, they can express all those feelings and all those things that they've gone through. And through that, they find healing. So, Brother Marcus, yes. Theater is so important. It's an expressive art. It's telling the story. And through telling the story, I become healed. So thank you.
We're out of time, but I want to give Brother Marcus kind of a final word and then have Dr. B close us out. But in a minute, Dr. Marcus, impressions, thoughts, or invitations for people to join us next week. Next week, you're bringing one of your colleagues to the circle. Talk about Dr. Lodge.
Dr. Tina Lodge, she's actually the coordinator of Minority Behavioral Health Group and is transitioning to the Veterans Hospital in that psychology ward there. She's amazing, man. Just like everybody on this line, her intelligence, she's the one that brought me to the knowledge of the African-American approach to psychology, to the ACEs and understanding traumas and how it impacts our lives. She's a big leader in the area in the youth violence, as well as highlighting those things and infant mortality and the rate in our area codes and that impact. I heard last week you guys talked about post-traumatic slave syndrome. She introduced me to that concept and opened my eyes to how that's impacting our lives. So next week is going to be real nice. I can't wait till she joins the circle.
Dr. B, why don't you close us out?
I'd like to, and I once again want to thank you, Brother Marcus, for gracing us with your presence and your brilliance and your genius and your spirit of commitment and care for our youth and empowering them in multiple ways. Because when you empower the youth, you empower the adults who love them. So it gives us all joy to have you here, and I look forward to seeing you join us again in the future next week. I want to thank again Lily and for your brilliance and your beauty, my beautiful sister, and Brenda for your awesome perspective on things and how you take what we say and put it beautifully in words we can't even imagine in your writing. And Sister Charlene, your fight and your idea for this program, because you're the one that came up with the idea of having youth as ambassadors in our world for wellness and healing and fighting COVID and community violence. And today is just a demonstration of what happens when we just put a little bit of love into a child who's a vessel and a creator of her own story. And of course, my brother Al, thank you for letting us have this time together as we heal, as we walk away. I'm almost speechless with the joy that this power shares for our community and the hopes and dreams that we hold as we stand on the backs and shoulders of our ancestors who have only dreamed for us to be what we're doing right now and where we are right now. So thank you, and I guess we'll see you next time in the Healing Circle.
All righty. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
As morning draws near, I rise and say my prayer. Little piece of bread to my mouth, little tea to wash it down. It's my daily tribulation, even though I'm a working man. I work so hard to make ends meet, so with one suit and one shoe to my feet. Days are getting so hard, yeah, but I got to keep on pushing on this 9 to 5, working to stay alive. On my 9 to 5, working till the sun goes down. As the sun sets in the west,
I pack my things and head on home, thinking about tomorrow's journey as I try these streets alone. It's my daily tribulation, oh Jah, searching for liberation, yeah. Got to step out of Babylon, take a step to Mount Zion. Days are getting so hard, yeah, but I got to keep on pushing on this 9 to 5, working to stay alive. Oh, on this 9 to 5, yeah, working till sun goes down, sun goes down. Days are getting so hard, yeah, but I got to keep on pushing on this 9 to 5, working to stay alive.